brings in the concept of, if I go to an acupuncturist and he puts a needle in my big toe and he says, well, that's going to help your liver and your headaches, you think, well, it's the farthest point from that organ.
Yeah.
But the concept of tensegrity is we're a whole organism, and you can't affect one part without affecting the whole. Yeah. Now, when you know how to affect the whole from one point, that's a power. And that's what took the skill to learn and the understanding to put together, because without the two, you wouldn't go down that road.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that you mentioned in there, James Ashman, whose book is Energy Medicine, he's talking about being able to rehydrate this facial network after injury, but he talks about using pressure at the right angle.
Yes.
Now, what you were learning from Dr. Hatsumi was he was showing you that specific thing, and then you've managed to find someone scientifically explaining it to put his sort of ancient wisdom, in a sense, to the modern scientific
that
approach.
one quote in the book was a game changer. I mean, the book very scientifically explains fascia, tensegrity, energy lines, also biomagnetism, the whole different unscientific approach, which is now becoming a science because they can measure it. And I always remember Hatsumi saying, science should be your servant, not your master. He said, until nature is measured, it's not a science. As soon as something's measured, it's no longer nature, it becomes a science. And our logical brains need that. We need a base.
Nature came first.
Nature came first. But as you say, what James Ashman has done in this book, and other people, Robert Shelp and people, the Biotensegrity team, they're all proving that these properties inside of fascia are biotensible. In other words, when you pull one part, you affect all parts. And therefore, if you have an injury to one part, it can affect any other part.
I think another good book that's quite interesting, that's, again, looking at a lot of this new modern research, is The Spark in the Machine.
Oh, Spark in the Machine.
By Dr. Keown. And he's a Western doctor, but also an acupuncturist, traditional Chinese medicine. So he's basically quite well in the book put together how what he's learned in Western medicine and what he's learned in the Eastern medicine can actually fit together, and how a lot of the time he sort of says some of the stories in the book when someone comes in and he's got a client that might need it. You would give them that drug, for example. He'd ask them first, obviously, then he would use the acupuncture system, and it actually would negate the need for giving them the westernised medicine approach, in a sense. So it just shows how one can, how they fit together, basically.
And basically, Western medicine's concept is they look at each organ as an organ, and therefore the disease as an entity, not a process. Now, if you look at it as a process, then your kidneys aren't working right, then you can get it back up to something else, you get toxins here, you get a heart problem. That's a process. If you look at the heart as just being a problem in itself, that's not. So that's where East and West really don't mix. The Eastern looks at the whole concept and looks at the energy flows, and if those energy flows are blocked, but you need to also add, if you've got an energy flow blockage, you've also got a nerve dragging in the same area. You've also got inflammation, you've also got these deformities, you've got circulation. So each of those sciences are right, but they all affect each other. And what's more important is that you understand the interrelationship of those. So when you're pressing a point or putting a needle in a point or making a manipulation or stretching some structure, that it actually has those effects across the board. Otherwise, again, it's still localised and symptom treating. And that, again, is what we want to address the whole body and bring about that wellness factor back into the body.
I think me and Chris have been quite lucky because we've only been in the industry the last 15 years, which is where modern science has always been there, where we can prove something quantitatively, subjectively, what's right, what's wrong. So was it the martial art aspect? Because obviously not everyone has to be a martial artist to learn therapy. We must make that clear. Was that the point where you found that when you could break somebody's balance, let's say the poise that we talked about earlier, the minute the head, the pelvis and the feet are on the line and communicate at the same point, is that when you realised then how the body, when there wasn't science to prove this at the time, is that when you realised how you had to work with the whole body as one subject, as opposed to trying to just work one area symptomatically, a karate approach versus Hatsumi's approach, which was to disable somebody, not to just break a part of the body or shut it down.
And he only taught this to three of us.